Welcome to FairPlay Football AI Review. England and Ghana played out a goalless draw at a humid Boston stadium, and if that scoreline tells you very little about the match, you are not alone, because this was a game that deserved far more than the nothing it ultimately produced. Group L had everything to play for coming into Matchday 2, and both sides arrived at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough with identical missions. England needed a win to put one foot firmly in the knockout rounds after their opening victory, while Ghana came in knowing that a point against the tournament's pre-match favorites in the group would represent genuine progress. These two sides were tied on 3 points apiece before kickoff, and the stakes created a tension that ultimately paralyzed both of them. Thomas Tuchel arrived in Boston under quiet but growing pressure. England's opening performance had drawn criticism for being functional rather than inspired, and questions about the system, particularly around Jude Bellingham's role and the balance in midfield, were already circulating in the English press. There were no fresh injury concerns to complicate selection, but the expectation on England at a home World Cup, even one hosted across the Atlantic, is always enormous. Tuchel set England up in a 4-2-3-1, his preferred structure since taking the job. Reece James and Jed Spence provided the width at fullback, with Ezri Konsa and Mark Guehi as the central defensive partnership. Declan Rice and Elliot Anderson anchored the double pivot, giving Jude Bellingham, Noni Madueke, and Anthony Gordon freedom to support Harry Kane. On paper, it was a system built for attacking intent, with pace and creativity stretching the opposition wide. Carlos Queiroz, however, had done his homework thoroughly. The Ghana coach lined his side up not in a flat 4-1-4-1 as initially billed, but in what functioned in practice as a deep 5-4-1 defensive block. Benjamin Asare played as the lone goalkeeper, Caleb Urenki operated as a wingback on the right, and the compact shape was designed with one purpose: deny England space behind the defensive line and absorb everything thrown at them. The tactical mismatch was immediately apparent, and critically, it worked in Ghana's favor far longer than England would have liked. England's 2-3-1 structure needed the fullbacks to push high and create overloads in wide areas, but with Queiroz's narrow midfield block sitting deep and disciplined, the channels England wanted to exploit simply did not exist. Tuchel's side found themselves circulating possession horizontally without ever threatening to break through the lines. England controlled the opening exchanges in terms of the ball, but control of possession is not the same as control of the game. Ghana sat in their shape, compressed the space, and invited England to find a solution they clearly did not have. The first half was a study in organized resistance, Ghana winning second balls, disrupting rhythm, and never giving Kane or Bellingham a moment of comfort between the lines. The most significant statistic from the first 45 minutes is the one that defines it entirely. Neither side managed a single shot on target. England attempted passes, circled the Ghana block from left to right, but every penetrating run was cut off, and every attempt at a through ball was anticipated. Bellingham, operating in the creative 10 role, visibly grew frustrated with the lack of space, while Kane dropped deeper and deeper in search of the ball, leaving England without a focal point in the box. One moment threatened to spark things into life before the interval. England worked a promising sequence on the right flank just after the half-hour mark, and the ball eventually broke to a shooting position that brought a decent low effort. But Asare was equal to it, gathering cleanly as England's best attempt before the break came to nothing. It underlined how much Ghana's goalkeeper was being asked to do very little, which in itself was a reflection of how blunt England were in the final third. The other first-half flashpoint had nothing to do with goalmouth action. In the 41st minute, Declan Rice was booked for a cynical tactical foul on Kwasi Sibo as Ghana looked to break through midfield. It was a deliberate professional foul. Rice accepted it without complaint, but it was the kind of moment that highlighted how seriously England were taking Ghana's threat, even while dominating possession. At halftime, Tuchel's side led on every attacking metric that mattered superficially: possession, corners, attacks, and yet had nothing to show for it. The fundamental problem was clear. England were generating volume without generating quality. Ghana came in at the break with a clean sheet and a game plan functioning exactly as designed, and there were already murmurs that Tuchel needed to change something more than just personnel. The second half began with England pushing higher and faster, and the urgency was palpable from the first whistle. But it was Ghana who created the first real talking point of the second period. Iñaki Williams, operating in the right channel, was caught late by a challenge in the 59th minute that prompted an angry reaction, before the Black Stars midfielder himself was booked in the 60th minute for serious foul play in an earlier challenge, Ghana's only card of the game and a sign of the physical edge the match now carried. The 65th minute brought Tuchel's first major intervention, and he went with a double substitution that signaled genuine intent. Bukayo Saka replaced Anthony Gordon on the right, bringing directness and the threat of a 1-versus-1 that Gordon had not been able to generate. Simultaneously, Nico O'Reilly came on for Jed Spence at left back, a change that shifted the shape slightly and gave England more energy in wide areas. Queiroz responded immediately from the Ghana bench, bringing on Abdul Fatawu for Iñaki Williams at 66 minutes, a like-for-like replacement that maintained the structural integrity of the defensive block, with the fresh legs of the young forward adding a counter-attacking outlet Ghana had occasionally lacked with Williams tiring. 1 minute later, Ghana brought on Prince Kwabena Adu for Jordan Ayew, and the young substitute would go on to be the most controversial figure of the night. Within moments of arriving on the pitch, Adu was involved in a collision with Jordan Pickford that Ghana felt strongly should have been penalized. Pickford was awarded a free kick, but replicas of the incident showed that Adu had touched the ball before the contact, and had he not, the England goalkeeper would have been in serious trouble with both the referee and the laws of the game. The more significant controversy came in the 79th minute. Adu was through on goal when Ezri Konsa challenged him inside the penalty area. The contact was visible, Adu went to ground, and the live crowd at Gillette Stadium held its breath awaiting a VAR review. The technology examined the incident but did not intervene, the system's threshold requiring a clear and obvious error, and by some margin, this did not meet that bar. The ESPN VAR analyst called it a poor decision by Konsa, and he was very fortunate indeed. The moment was saved from further chaos when the offside flag was raised against Antoine Semenyo, who had touched the ball in the aftermath, cutting off any possibility of a rebound goal. Morgan Rogers came on for Jude Bellingham at the 73rd minute mark or 74th, depending on the exact exchange, and it was one of the more surprising calls of the night. Bellingham had been removed from the game by Ghana's organization and clearly needed refreshing, but replacing him with Rogers rather than a more direct option felt conservative. Within a minute, Ebereki Eze arrived for Elliot Anderson, giving England two fresh creative midfielders and a complete reshaping of the attacking unit. The most telling substitution of the second half came in the 83rd minute when Marcus Rashford entered for Noni Madueke. Rashford, with 7 minutes of normal time plus stoppage, had almost no impact, completing just 7 passes and winning no duels. It was a cameo that summed up England's collective struggle to impose themselves on a game they theoretically dominated. England came closest to breaking the deadlock through Nico O'Reilly, who struck the woodwork with an effort from outside the box deep into the second half. The ball cannoned back into play and was cleared, a moment that summarized England's evening with devastating accuracy. All that pressure, all that possession, and when the clearest chance arrived, it came off the post. The decisive moment of the match, or rather the decisive absence of one, was the sum of those two Adu incidents combined. Ghana's substitute arrived and twice put England's defense in situations from which a penalty or a sending off could have completely transformed the tie. That neither materialized was partly good fortune for England, partly VAR's interpretation of the threshold rules, and partly sheer chaos. The match never found its winner because England could not break through and Ghana could not capitalize on the moments that fell their way. England's possession numbers are the headline statistic, 79% of the ball compared to Ghana's 21%. But this figure is almost entirely misleading. Possession that never threatens is simply maintenance, and England's 586 accurate passes generated an expected goals figure of just 1.52. For context, A match with genuinely sustained attacking threat would produce XG significantly above that figure against a well-organized but limited opponent. Ghana's XG of 0.33, despite barely touching the ball, tells a different story. Their threat came in moments, not movement, and it was nearly enough. England registered 19 shots in total, with 14 coming from inside the box. Of those 19, only 3 were on target, and 6 were blocked. Benjamin Asare was asked to make 3 saves across the full 90 minutes, 2 of which were comfortable. Ghana, by contrast, had just 2 total shots, both from outside or on the edge of the area. The expected goals data confirms what the eye test suggested. England were manufacturing quantity without manufacturing quality, and Ghana were happy to let them do it all night. Defensively, Ghana's performance deserves genuine credit. Queiroz set his side up to neutralize, and they neutralized completely. Gideon Mensah made 5 tackles, Marvin Sanaya added 7 before his substitution, and Thomas Partey, operating as the base of the midfield, made 4 and broke up rhythm repeatedly in the central channel. England's defenders, for their part, were rarely tested but showed composure when Adou's moments of genuine danger arrived, though Konsa in particular will be grateful for the official's interpretation at the 79th minute. The standout performer in an England shirt was Marc Guéhi, who made 129 passes at exceptional accuracy and remained composed throughout. His aerial presence was not tested as frequently as expected, but when Adou threatened in the second half, Guéhi was quick to cover and organize. He also produced the match's only shot from a defender, a blocked effort from a set piece, which underlines how deeply England were struggling to generate danger from open play. For Ghana, Thomas Partey was the engine of everything that worked. 4 tackles, disciplined in possession, and a constant organizing presence that gave the defensive block its structure. Without Partey anchoring the midfield, Ghana's shape would have been far more vulnerable to the overloads England repeatedly attempted to create. At 32 years old and with injury history behind him, his ability to perform at this level for 90 minutes was genuinely impressive. The player who struggled most on the night was Jude Bellingham. His influence in the first half was close to invisible. 1 shot, 1 blocked attempt, 2 fouls committed, and 31 passes largely sideways or backward. Bellingham is a player who thrives in space and at pace, and Queiroz's deep block was designed specifically to deny him both. He was substituted in the 73rd minute, and while the decision was understandable, seeing one of the world's best players removed before 80 minutes reflects how completely he was managed out of the contest. Tactically, Tuchel's night was mixed at best. His formation chose width and creativity, but created a team that circulated without penetrating. The double substitutions in the 65th minute were the right calls made at the right time, but the shift to Bellingham and Anderson being replaced by Rodgers and Eze felt like a change in texture rather than a change in approach. Queiroz, by contrast, executed his game plan almost flawlessly, and the Konsa and Pickford incidents aside, his side came very close to stealing the match on the counter. England and Ghana have met only a handful of times at full international level, and this result maintains the tight competitive nature of those encounters. There is no deep psychological history here, no decades of rivalry, but Ghana's Black Stars have now proven twice in recent tournament football that they can match and frustrate European opposition through organization rather than technical equality. This draw will reinforce that belief in their camp considerably. England arrive at this fixture on the back of 9 consecutive wins before the draw, their qualification campaign a near-perfect run that included heavy victories over Serbia, Latvia, and Albania. The draw here does not significantly dent confidence, but it does raise tactical questions about Tuchel's ability to break down organized opposition, questions that were also present during the European Championship campaign and have never been fully answered. Ghana came into this match having beaten Panama 1-0 in their opening game, and their form through African qualification was strong: 5 wins, 1 draw, and goals conceded at a minimum. Queiroz has built a side that is hard to beat rather than easy on the eye, and this performance against England is the strongest single result of his tenure. The Black Stars may have wanted more from the 90 minutes given those two ado incidents, but a point against England represents a genuine achievement. The Group L standings after 2 games show England and Ghana both on 4 points, Croatia on 3 following their opening win, and Panama without a point. England lead on goal difference with a +2 against Ghana's +1. The final group game will determine which 2 sides advance, and crucially, both England and Ghana control their own destiny heading into Matchday 3. England travel to face Panama, who have lost both games and are already eliminated from contention. On paper, it is the straightforward fixture Tuchel's side needs, but Panama are physical and motivated by pride, and England's recent struggles against organized defenses suggest they cannot afford complacency. Ghana face a far harder assignment, traveling to meet Croatia, who are wounded after a defeat and will be desperate for the win they need to stay alive. A draw may not be enough for Ghana if England win comfortably and goal difference comes into play. England should qualify. Their squad depth, experience, and the relative difficulty of Panama's opposition make them heavy favorites to advance as Group L winners with a win in their final game. Ghana's path is harder but not closed. A win over Croatia, combined with England beating Panama, would send both through. A draw against Croatia, however, could be fatal depending on the margins. Croatia remain dangerous enough to punish any hesitation, and the pressure on the Black Stars going into that fixture will be considerable. This was a match that will be remembered less for what happened and more for what nearly did: 2 ado incidents, a post from O'Reilly, and 90 minutes of pressure without penetration. England were the dominant side by every metric and left with nothing. Ghana were the disciplined side and came within a referee's call of leaving with everything. The draw was fair in result if not in performance. Thank you for watching FairPlay. England face Panama and Ghana take on Croatia as the group stage reaches its decisive final round, and if this game tells us anything, it is that the Black Stars will not simply roll over. The knockout rounds are in sight for both sides, but the road there just got a great deal more interesting. That's the FairPlay verdict on this one. If you want more analysis like this, follow us, find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at FairPlay AI, and follow Anthony personally on X at Anthony Fairplay. See you next match.